We're talking today again to Andrew Farriss. Talked to you back in October about Love Makes the World, about the EP you put out, which was the kind of the kind of an appetizer of sorts before the release of your debut solo album, which you've been waiting on for a while. A pandemic happened and everything, but now your self-titled debut album has come out March 19th. So that was, I'll do the math here, that was 10 days ago from when we're taping the interview tonight, or is it, okay, is it just after noon where you're at?
It's literally midday.
Okay.
Right here. So we're in it's midday.
Okay.
And, what time is it there?
It is. It's 8:02 p.m. on Monday.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But it's Tuesday here.
Already. So going across the days here, I just love when that happens. It just blows my mind talking to someone that it's a different day entirely. But so it's been out. So it's been out for 10 days for 11 days for you. It's been out for 10 days for us up here in the States. Well, but it's been a year since the album would have originally come out.
Right.
Yeah. So
right. Well,
go ahead.
Yeah. Oh no, I was just going to say right. Well, because that's right about the time when I started to release my album that the pandemic kicked in, and the record company out of Nashville and for the rest of the world, is BMG. They said, "Look, Andrew, you can keep releasing your record, but the world's going crazy." And I'm like, "Yeah, I agree." And people are more worried about their health and their families and their jobs, and then worrying about Andrew Farriss's album coming out. So I recognized all that, and that's why I delayed it until now.
Had it come out a year ago, had it come out on time, do you think you would have viewed the songs any differently? Or maybe I'll switch it around the other way. Having had a whole year putting it on pause, do you view the songs any differently, having had a chance to essentially marinate them for a whole year before the public gets to hear those tunes?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I got a little bit paranoid because, for most artists, when they make an album, they like to get it out quickly while they're still comfortable with all the recordings, because you tend to sort of criticize your own work, most artists do, when it's been around for a while, But for me, I'm actually comfortable with my album again now. I went through a bit of a paranoia phase, but I'm comfortable again with it now, I think. And ironically, a lot of the songs on my album, are lyrically, deliberately related to subjects like freedom and, being able to, one of the songs called Drifting, about just feeling like you can travel around and not feel any pressure to be anywhere or do anything. You're just relaxed, and you could be, in the old days, or it could be now in a car, it could be on a horse or something. And the same with a lot of the songs on my album are related to that idea of freedom, which is not a cliche. It's something that people fought very hard to raise up the flagpole, is the idea of freedom and liberty. They're not light words, and so for me, I feel with my album, the lyrics on it are still just as meaningful, if not more meaningful, out of the period we've just come out of. And I didn't design that; that just happened.
When I talked to you in October, I asked you a question kind of along those lines, and totally fine if you don't recall, but I had asked you about Love Makes the World, and then how, interestingly, the lyrics on those songs in that EP almost seemed as though they were intended for the time, even though they were written before the pandemic hit. And that's an effect that I'd noticed with other artists throughout last year when they would release music. It seemed like it was perfect. It was appropriate. And here again, did that realization ever come across you, like you were just kind of describing a moment ago, that you go, wow, it's almost like you had almost a premonition without knowing that this was going to be lyrically appropriate to listen to now, as opposed to had we never had the pandemic and the album had come out on time?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I definitely think that the songs that were on my 5-track EP, as opposed to the 12 tracks on my new LP that I've got out, the difference is that the songs that are on my LP were purposely chosen and written most of them to suit the album. Not so much the times we're experiencing, for better or for worse, but my album was definitely designed to suit an entire concept. Well, I suppose that's, sounds a bit of a big word, but that's really what my album is. It's sort of, I wanted everything on my album to be like a country and western folky sort of flavor to the record, and to have influences that were almost pre-electricity a lot of the time. And, because most of the frontier sense of the world, of cultures sort of meeting for the first time, or, and sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. But in the era we live in now, most of our boundaries and frontiers are technical frontiers. They're technology driven,
Mm-hmm.
It's a completely different era.
The lyrics on, look at him here, my question. The lyrics on Where Do You Sleep Tonight are, I think, my favorite on the entire album. The wordplay of the months and the way that they get turned into the verses. I as I'm listening along, I'm like, okay, how's April going? Okay, yep, that works. How's May? Okay, that's how I love that in that particular. What is your favorite lyric among the 12 tracks?
Yeah, Where Do You Sleep Tonight's a good lyric. I agree. I appreciate that. But I think my probably lyrically, one of the songs I'm really, two of them actually, I'm very happy with, well, I like all of them, but particularly two of them are Starlight, which I wrote. The lyric is about, I co-wrote the song with two other friends and very good friends of mine, Buck Johnson and James Dean Hicks. But the lyric, I wanted to be about my wife's cancer journey. She has stage 4 metastatic breast cancer, and I wanted to write the song Starlight to give the empathy and my, awesome respect I have for her. She's just an amazing lady, and I love her so much. And that's what the song's all about. That's Starlight. One of the other songs, I'm really pleased with the way that came together right at the end of the album. Not Starlight. Son of a Gun, because I purpose wrote that lyric to suit the idea of a young gunslinger who's trying to escape from a sheriff, and he rides around. He doesn't have a very good ending for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do like the transition too from Apache Pass into Starlight. How did you kind of decide to combine those two songs? Almost because as you're listening to it, I feel like, whoa, is that really a second song? And I look down at my phone and go, yep, that just transitioned into Starlight. But it feels like one song, but with two chapters. How was that intended as an arrangement?
Yeah, well, I always thought that Starlight was missing something, so I got the mariachi trumpet going on it, and that did it for me. Then I was happy with it. But the segue that goes from Apache Pass into Starlight, that was important for me too, because I wanted the listener to not feel like they're listening to a pop record or the normal kind of I don't know how to put it, but I didn't have formulas for much of this record that I've learned as a professional songwriter. I tried to ditch the formulas and go for more of a concept idea where all the songs lyrically relate to each other. So it's an easy flow to go from Apache Pass into Starlight, because they're kind of both connected in a strange way. Most of the songs lyrically on my album are all connected, and that was something that I worked very hard, to achieve. I think hopefully I've done it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there definitely is that. There's a setting. I get the feeling on that, so it succeeded. Instrumentally speaking, hear the saxophone popping up on some of the songs, especially on You Are My Rock. Honestly, the first time I heard that, I went, yeah, Kirk Pengilly playing on sax here. It feels just like that. It was the impression I was getting. How did you decide on this somewhat different instrumentation? It's a combination with some of the instruments, sax being maybe the most prominent to me anyway, I don't hear on any other album. How did you decide on this stew of instrumentation?
Right, that's really interesting. I had another instrument in mind besides the sax for that solo part and the instrumentation, which was slide guitar. But I think the sax just sounded so sweet in the song and cool. You know, I think it's a cool sound. And look, I love In Excess, and I miss those guys. I'm very proud of my association with them, and I get on with them great. Two of them are my brothers. And but that song with You Are My Rock, I wanted the song to also be the last song on my album, to say thank you to everybody for getting that far and listening to the last track on my album. Because some albums, you put them on, you get halfway through it and you go, yeah, it's okay, maybe I'll listen to the rest of this later. But I'm really surprised that a lot of the people who've been listening to my record and talking to me about it and reviewing it, they play it over and over again. I'm like, you really do know these songs. Wow. As I'm talking to them, So I appreciate you saying that. And the instrumentation, all the musicians that played on my record, including, I played some of it as well. But ironically, I tried not to play too much on my own record. I was trying to be a lead singer and a songwriter more than I was trying to be, a musical virtuoso. And I was working with a sort of, an incredibly gifted group of people in Nashville of all, different musicians, incredibly talented people. And I recognize one of the things I know as a musician is when I'm hearing another musician who's better than me, I'd much rather listen to them.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the fan reaction thus far. Any particular songs jumping out that you've seen, either social media or anyone in person, where they keep saying, I like this song? What are you sensing thus far?
Well, it's very interesting because you brought up Where Do You Sleep Tonight, and even here in Australia, some of the local radio DJs are saying, why don't you put that out as a single? But then again, I have other songs out. Well, I got a single out at the moment called Run Baby Run, and that's getting some really good airplay too. But I think the the record label wants me to put out another song. I won't tell you which one it is, but they say, I'm telling you, this is the one. They keep telling me. And I'm like, oh, okay. But in the back of my mind, I'm talking to folks like yourself, and I find it fascinating to hear what other people have to say. But Where Do You Sleep Tonight does come up. Another one that's been a bit of has come out of left field is My Cajun Girl off the record as well. People like that. People like Apache Pass. People like Son of a Gun. And of course, then there's You Are My Rock. But, we'll see what happens. I don't know,
I'm always a big advocate for labels listening to what fans should say, or what fans say. Maybe the most prominent recent example was when Maren Morris released her last album. And I don't know if you heard the same story, but I remember she had mentioned and I read in like Billboard or something, she said soon after the release, she said, in the United States, a lot of people seem to like the Bones a lot. That song became a mega, mega smash here in the United States. And so that was flagged really early on. So fans liked that from the start, and the label listened to that. I think the label should probably go by whatever the fans are saying right now. It's probably a good idea for your project.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That's very logical too. I like the lateral thinking you've got going there. But I'm going to say something that I read once that John Lennon said, that you're lucky if anyone likes you. And that's true of life, let alone your music, But I think in this case with my album, I'm just really flattered and humbled almost that so many people are saying they really like what I've done. And I didn't know, in fact, I think when I first started releasing my record, because the album hadn't been released, they didn't realize what all the other songs were and how I've stylized it towards this sort of country and western folk sort of album. They didn't realize at first exactly what my album was. But since a couple of them have said to me, look, I didn't understand what you were doing at first, but now I've heard the whole album, I get it. And I thought that was interesting, because we're living in a world where it's very much almost going back to the 1950s or early 60s, where you have a Tin Pan Alley situation. You got these very clever professional songwriters, and then they throw hits up on the radio, and you're never quite sure who's writing or playing or whatever it is that you're listening to. The old concept of an album, being purposely a concept, that was something I really, really wanted to do. And I think at first, some of the people were a bit sort of unsure about what I was trying to do. And I said, look, what I'm trying to do is to create a body of work where everything relates to itself. So the lyrics in the songs all relate to each other. The instrumentation all relates to the era that I'm trying to set the tone of the music in, the country music genre, the respect I have for that genre in the community, and especially the older sort of Americana and Australiana history. I told you, didn't I, about how I went on the horse riding adventure, right?
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Well, all of that, all played a major, major part in how I recognized that I knew how to. Before I took that horse riding adventure, I didn't really know or feel comfortable with making an album because I didn't know where the boundaries were. I didn't know how to set the parameter on. Like, it was almost like having an enormous canvas in front of me that was just a blank canvas, and there was no boundaries. Well, that in a weird way is frightening because you don't know what genre specific music you want to have on it. Should I have super cutting modern country on it? Should I have bits of modern country, bits of older country? Should I make it all old country? But when I realized I could actually do more of a country and western thing and bring some modern influences into it, I went, that's how I want to do it. Now I understand what I'm doing. Now I know what I'm doing now.
Well, it works, and it's a cohesive album, and it's a good album. And anyone listening right now would encourage them, and if you're listening to this interview, give it a listen. Andrew Farriss by Andrew Farriss, new album out. We're looking forward to more stuff coming out from you. Any more videos coming down the road and beyond after Run Baby Run, which is a fun video to watch also. Anything more to come, we'll be watching for that, and looking forward to more projects from you coming down the road in the future.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm going to make some more videos. I've got another one or at least 2 videos I want to make, and I've already got another 3 videos, believe it or not, sitting in the can that you've never seen before from the album. I've already shot them. And but yeah, I want to do one more as well, that we've got to shoot, and then I'll have another 4 videos. If people want to check them out, they can go to my YouTube channel or andrewfarriss.com and check out what I'm doing there. And also, because we were in lockdown and in October last year when we were last speaking to each other, we went into a recording studio and shot like a live, version of both the EP and LP sets of music. There's about 16 songs. Well, people can check out the first EP set that's up at the moment on my website, but the LP section of it is in post-production with the filming side of it right now. The audio's done, it's finished a while ago, but the actual visual element of it is coming together as we speak. So that'll be up soon too.
Gosh, there's going to be a lot to watch. That's cool. So we'll be keeping an eye out for all of that and watching all the videos and everything. Best of luck with everything when you're able to get back into live concerts. That'll be awesome. Looking forward to a lot more coming down the road. Andrew, thanks for taking some more time to chat with us today up here in the States, and we'll talk to you later. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you, Luke, and keep your eyes fixed where the trail meets the sky.
Sounds good. Thanks. Take care.
All right.